What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 501, where it all begins again. Just made up that catchphrase. Nobody has ever used it before. Totally made it up on my own. And I think it's pretty fitting because now that we are into episode 501, I wanted to come up here and talk to you guys about the state of the channel, maybe give a little State of the Union address or State of GoodMicWork address and let you know some of the changes that I am going to be making on the channel here in the next few weeks, and it's time to evolve. We are now on the other side of episode 500. It's been a very crazy and very fun first 500 episodes on this channel, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished, and you guys have all been fabulous, amazing group of listeners and fans, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all of your support. But as all things must do, all things must evolve. And for the past several weeks now, I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, and trying to come up with some ideas to evolve this channel. I want to grow more. I want to be bigger. I'm very happy that this channel is knocking on the door of 20,000 subscribers, but I think we deserve more, and I would like to try some things and experiment a little in order to achieve that. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is what I have planned for the channel, as well as getting into a little bit of wrestling news as well. I'm going to elaborate some more on the Fox deal that the WWE has recently agreed to and what changes might be happening in the future next year when they do move SmackDown and possibly one other show over to the Fox network. We're also going to talk about Enzo's beautiful rap song. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch that yet. If you have not, maybe put this video on pause, go take a look at it and come back. We're going to talk about that later on. And I'm also going to discuss some news involving CM Punk. His trial is now underway with WWE's doctor that's suing CM Punk and Colt Cabana for like $1 million. He's got a UFC fight coming up on June 9th, and he might even return to professional wrestling this coming September at All In. So I will discuss those possibilities later on. After that, I will spend just a couple of minutes on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Not the greatest week of TV this week. We're still several weeks away from Money in the Bank. Both shows have finalized their competitors, and the card is pretty much set now. So after I briefly run through Raw and SmackDown, I will also review and preview the entire Money in the Bank card and maybe even throw out some possible predictions and scenarios, and we'll just make it kind of like a discussion. And I also want to hear what all of you have to say and what your ideas are for Money in the Bank as well. So I'm going to begin this week with my plans for the YouTube channel in the next few weeks. Now, if this type of shit bores you or you don't care about what I'm doing personally on this channel, feel free to skip ahead. Go ahead 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, and you can hear me start discussing the meat and potatoes of what you're going to hear in this commentary. But I definitely wanted to open up with a few minutes of thoughts and information on what I have planned. So, like I said earlier in the beginning of this episode, I have been thinking about ways to change the channel, to evolve it, to grow it, to do more things with it, do different things with it, take it in different directions, just not doing the status quo. And I've actually been thinking about this for a while. Probably around episode 475, I started to think to myself, I need to do more with this channel. I need to come up with something else. I need to do more. I just really want it to grow faster than it currently is. The live streams that I started doing last year have been awesome. They've given me a ton of subscribers, a ton of new watchers and listeners, and they're a great way to interact with all of you. But I would like to do even more than that. So I decided that I would get through the beginning of the year, get through WrestleMania season, and get through episode 500, and then I would start working towards making a few changes on the channel. So one of the things I really wanted to do for this channel is to somehow figure out a way to upload more content to you, but somehow spend less time doing it. And I've been thinking that lately these podcasts have been killing me, having to come up here and give a full review of Raw and a full review of SmackDown, even when the shows suck. I'm finding it to be more of a chore than anything else, and I think a lot of you guys can relate and understand, those of you who have been watching YouTube or are a fan of a lot of people on YouTube. No matter who you subscribe to, what kind of a channel they have, what kind of entertainment they provide to you, no matter what their channel is about, I think everybody has seen some of their favorite YouTubers reach points of burnout, where they either want to take a break or they want to change things, or maybe their lives are very chaotic personally and they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to the channel. And this is not small YouTubers, this is big YouTubers too. One name that comes to mind is Grade A Under A, a guy who I thought put out amazing content, hilarious shit with a couple of million subs, probably makes a ton of money off YouTube, but just didn't have the passion for it anymore, and he's fallen off the face of the earth. And there's a lot of people like that. And I never want to do that. I never want to get so burnt out that I have to distance myself from the channel completely. What I would like to do is maybe change things up. And I knew it was becoming a problem when I found the commentaries becoming a chore. When the current state of the product right now is hit or miss, it's not very good a lot of times. WrestleMania season is always fun no matter what year it is. But aside from that, it can get really difficult and taxing for me to do a podcast on two shows that I really didn't enjoy. And I don't really feel like coming up here and talking for an hour or two about shit like that in podcast form, especially when it takes me so long to record it and then edit it and put it all together and upload it to you. So the podcasts by no means are going anywhere. I'm going to stick with them, but I want to do a couple of other things on the channel. So here's what I have in mind. A couple of new segments are going to be coming to the channel starting in just the next few weeks. And one of these segments I'm actually going to ask for some of your help on, which is actually what I wanted to talk to you guys about first. Now, like I said, I've done 500 episodes. Many years have gone by on this channel. I've talked about a lot of stuff and a lot of different subjects and a lot of different topics in professional wrestling over the years. And a while back, for those of you who know, on my second channel, another channel that lays dormant and I would really like to do something with, but right now I'm focused on my main channel. I will try to figure out something to do to utilize the second channel. I haven't done anything on there in over a year, but back in the day, I used to do a clips segment. I used to take little snippets of my podcasts or commentaries and upload them 2, 3, 4, maybe even 10 minutes long, little clips over there on the second channel to basically serve as little advertisements for my show. They'll be peppered around YouTube, and I can upload them from time to time. And I got that idea from watching what TV Tracks was doing with some podcasts like Solid Monster and Don Tony and Kevin Castle and others. I actually kind of borrowed that idea to use on my own channel. But then once TV Tracks and I started working together, there was really no reason for me to do that anymore. Well, now TV Tracks is actually taking a hiatus from YouTube as well. He will not be uploading very often either. So that kind of sparked something in my head that I would like to do, and I wanted to add 2 more smaller segments on my channels, shorter videos. The first one is kind of, I don't even know what to call it, but basically like a best of. And this is where I want to enlist some of your help. I want to kind of give it a catchy name. I was thinking about something like the repackage or something like that, where I take, an old clip of me discussing something. It doesn't have to be a rant, doesn't have to be anything crazy, just me discussing something in a logical, intelligent way. Me talking about a major story in wrestling, a major show, a wrestler, any sort of big story that there has ever been in professional wrestling that I have talked about. I was thinking about going back, finding some of those clips and uploading them onto my YouTube channel just to give the channel some more content. I think it would be a lot of fun, and I'm sure I could put together at least 100 of these clips. But the thing is, I don't like really going back and listening to myself. Whenever I do a podcast, I never find myself listening to it or re-listening to it because I don't want to listen to myself fucking talk in my own ear. It seems crazy. So I very rarely go back and listen to and watch any of my videos. So what I was thinking is some of you could actually help me with this. I'm going to be combing through some of them, and I've even got a few clips already set aside, and I'm putting together the whole series, and I don't even want to start the series until I get about 25 or 30 videos pre-done. Like, get them all done, completely finished, and slowly upload them 2 to 3 per week is kind of my plan. So if you can remember things off the top of your head, or if there are specific videos or things that I've said in the past that you thought would be perfect for this little clip segment, let me know where to find it. Let me know what episode and where I can find it in the commentary, and I'll pull the audio off of there, and I will start putting these together and begin uploading them a few at a time on my channel just to get my name out there more, get more stuff out there. So that's one idea I have, and that's already in the works, and that should be debuting here soon once I get, some clips set aside. So we can pretty much call it a best of segment where I can showcase some of the work I have done in the past. And like I said, if some of you guys have any ideas or you want to help me out with this and comb through some of my commentaries, finding things that I said that you liked, maybe I predicted something and then it ended up happening a year later, anything like that. And if you want to help out with that, that's great. Send it over to my email, Facebook it to me, tweet it to me, whatever. I would appreciate all of your help, and I'll be working on my end to do the same thing to start getting that segment underway, and I hope to start that by mid-June, maybe the end of June. The other segment I'm going to do is going to be another small type of series on the channel, and I'm trying to think of a fun, wrestling-related name for this one too, and I've kind of got myself set on the name One-Off. And this is going to be a segment where I just come up here sporadically whenever I feel like it. It can be a live stream or, an edited commentary where I just come up and talk about one subject. Maybe a big news story happens during the week. Maybe, God forbid, somebody passes away, a wrestler gets released, a major name gets injured, any sort of big news story or controversial topic, I can come up and talk about that one subject in long form and spend a good amount of time on it. And I can even do those a couple times a week if the Raw and SmackDown shows were shitty and there was no reason to come up and do a podcast. I can just do a couple of those along with a couple of clip segments, and even without me coming up here and doing a podcast, I'm uploading 4 or 5 videos to you. So I wanted to start doing more of that. And like I said, the podcast isn't necessarily going anywhere, but I would like to almost scale it back a bit and maybe get to the point, because TV Tracks is currently on hiatus, maybe I'll get to the point where I will just limit my discussion of the current product to live streams, because things are going to have to change anyway. Next year, when WWE moves over to Fox, SmackDown is probably going to be moved to Fridays. So it's not like I can come up here anyway and do a long podcast reviewing Raw and SmackDown unless I came up and did it on the weekend, and that would be really impossible for me to do. So one way or the other, things have to change on this channel. So I'm basically trying to get a head start on it and try to find a groove on the channel where I can produce and upload more content to the audience, maybe helping expose me a little further, help increase my subscribers and my viewership, and get people talking about me, and maybe somebody will come across my videos more often if I'm uploading more than one a week. So that's kind of the plan there for those 2 segments. I am also going to start ramping up the pay-per-view and DVD reviews again. I have got 3 big videos coming in June alone. I've got 2 pretty big This Day in History episodes, a 25-year and a 20-year anniversary commentary to do on a couple of subjects, couple of pay-per-views, I should say, and I have a DVD review to do because I recently started the new tier on Patreon, where if you do pledge $100, I will do a video on any wrestling-related topic that you would like. So between the 2 brand new segments that I'm doing, some more This Day in History, some more pay-per-view reviews, and even some more DVD reviews, plus, whatever videos I have to do for Patreon for those who support, that should give this channel a really good amount of content going forward. And it would be much more fun for me. I mentioned earlier on how doing the podcasts feels like a chore sometimes. I want to enjoy doing this. I want to enjoy recording a commentary, making a video, uploading it to you. And a lot of times these weekly podcasts, when I have to talk about these terrible Raws and SmackDowns, they're just not very fun to do. I find it to be a nuisance, a pain in the ass, where if I'm talking about just one subject, I can elaborate more. I can be more detailed. If I'm talking about a past pay-per-view, I feel very nostalgic and I can actually have fun discussing these things and talking about these things. And I want to incorporate more of that on the channel while not abandoning the current product at all, because I'm still doing my live streams on Monday. We're watching Monday Night Raw together every single Monday. So I talk a lot about the current product on Mondays. And with SmackDown next year moving to a different night of the week, it's really going to throw a wrench in things anyway. So I figured this would be a good time to start changing things on the channel. So basically, to recap, you've got 2 small new segments that will be debuting on the channel in the next few weeks. One is kind of like a best of clips segment that I'm going to upload from time to time. The other is going to be a 1 subject commentary where I'm going to come up and talk about anything. Most of the time, this is going to be involving current events. For example, CM Punk has got his UFC fight coming up in just a couple of weeks. I will probably come up and do a one-off episode on CM Punk's UFC fight. So as crazy as this sounds, all these things I'm trying to add to the channel, in a lot of ways, it's actually going to reduce the amount of time I spend on it. And that was what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how can I give you guys more content, but not kill myself and spend 50 hours a week working on this shit? And over the past few weeks, I've been slowly putting all this shit together. And I think in a couple of more weeks, I'm going to be good to go. And you guys are going to start getting videos all the time. And that's really good timing for July, because I just found out that for Extreme Rules in July, I will not be here. I've booked a vacation to the East Coast. and I'm going to be gone for like 9 days, and that's going to span 2 Monday Night Raws, and it's also going to overlap with Extreme Rules, which means I won't even be home to watch it or live tweet or do a review on it or anything, and I don't even remember the last time I missed a pay-per-view, or at least missed a pay-per-view review on YouTube. Even if I miss a pay-per-view, I'm usually able to come up here and do a commentary on it, but I don't even get back to California until the day after Extreme Rules, and by the time I get back to work and get back to reality, you know, I might not even be able to come up and do a review on that show at all. So at least in the meantime, I'm going to have a lot of other videos on the channel for you. Like I said, between now and when I leave for vacation on July 9th, you're going to have 2 and maybe even 3 This Day in Histories coming to you, a DVD review, and hopefully both of my new segments will be launched by that point. So the hope is you won't even really notice that I'm gone. That's kind of the point. And yeah, I just want to evolve the channel. So I hope all of that makes sense to you guys. I know I just talked for a long time there about what I have planned, but hey, it's episode 501. It's a new day. Yes, it is. And it's a new era on this channel. And I want to try to grow it as best as I can. And these are some of the ideas that I have come up with. I want to do a lot more videos where I talk about stuff that I enjoy rather than stuff that I don't enjoy. And now we can wrap this up and start getting into what I wanted to talk about tonight. Like I said, I'm not going to spend really any time on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. We'll get into that later. I want to talk about some wrestling news first. And I want to elaborate a little bit more on WWE's deal with the Fox network. I mentioned that in my last episode when the deal was announced. At the time, I didn't read very many details about it other than the fact that it was for 5 years and for about $1 billion, which blows my fucking mind how much money is being thrown out there. WWE moving SmackDown over to Fox was basically done for money because the USA Network or NBC Universal wasn't going to be able to keep both shows, but they were going to be able to keep Raw. They really wanted to keep Raw, so it was in WWE's best interest to spread the 2 shows out over 2 networks. That way they can get double the money. Because when you look at the figures, or at least the reported figures, I don't have anything concrete here in front of me. This is just from what I've seen on the internet and from wrestling news sites and shit like that. But apparently the new deal that NBC has with WWE to air Raw is reportedly around $260 million over 10 years, which translates into $2.5 billion. So essentially, NBC is paying the same amount as Fox to air Raw as Fox is to air SmackDown. As a matter of fact, it looks like NBC might be paying a little bit more than Fox. So to keep both shows on the same network probably wasn't going to benefit WWE financially. Spreading them out, they can now get double the money. So between the 2 networks, WWE is set to take in over $2 billion in the next 5 years. $2 billion. That's fucking incredible. And now it's being reported that the Fox network really rolled out the red carpet for WWE, gave him this huge sales pitch. Rupert Murdoch, of course, and Vince McMahon coming together is pretty crazy, and they have told WWE that they are all in with promotion. They are going to advertise the shit out of WWE. This is the Fox network now. This is a national station, and they're going to be able to have WWE advertisements on NFL games, on baseball games, you know, and it's just amazing exposure for WWE. I think this is going to be huge for them. And apparently this deal even includes a studio show that's going to air on FS1, and there's even some rumors that this might be an NXT show. So they might either do like a studio talk show type of setting on FS1, or maybe that's where NXT is going to air. And with all of this money flying around and all of these networks bidding for WWE programming, there has been some interesting talk about possibly networks bidding for the rights to air WrestleMania. And when you think about that, it seems like a no-brainer. I mean, right now, WrestleMania is free on the WWE Network. And when you look at the amount of money that they profit or that they bring in, that they net after WrestleMania weekend, and you compare that to what a network would pay WWE to air WrestleMania, I mean, we're talking, again, probably in the neighborhood of $1 billion compared to, I don't know, the $20 million they might make off WrestleMania. I have no idea what they even make off of WrestleMania, but I would guess it would be somewhere in that neighborhood. So why would they not explore those options? Now, for me, as a old school fan, I like my WrestleMania the way it is. And if it's on a network, you know what that means? It means commercials. And it means commercials out the fucking ass. And I just don't know. I mean, I think in the end, money will talk, and WWE will say, well, if we got to run commercials, we got to run commercials. They're giving us $1 billion. How can we say no? But that's going to be really tough for me to swallow, to actually watch commercials happen as frequently as they do on NFL games. Every single time there's a timeout or something, they go and at least show you one commercial. I mean, it's commercial after commercial after commercial. You know, I would much rather just watch WrestleMania on the WWE Network, and I don't want anything to change. But, you know, money is the most important thing. You know, that's what WWE is going after, and they could probably make just as big of a deal off of somebody paying them the rights to air WrestleMania than they have over these SmackDown and Raw deals. There's all sorts of shit going on, and the face of the business could really change. I mean, these TV networks are throwing around a shit ton of money. You know, it just wasn't like this. You know, back when Raw started, even 1995 and 1996, go compare those numbers. Go look at what USA Network was paying WWE to run Raw back then compared to what's going on now. It's almost like two different universes, and it's fucking crazy. So, you know, we've got this long year and a half now. We've got over a year before this change even takes place. But with SmackDown going over to Fox, you got to wonder, where does that even leave the brand extension? You know, Fox is going to want, if they're paying all this money, they're going to want the creme de la creme on that show. They might even make it a 3-hour show like Raw is. But, you know, they're going to demand people. They're going to want Roman Reigns, or they're going to want whoever the big star is, or whatever. And WWE might have to do away with the brand extension with them signing this TV deal, because Fox isn't going to want just half of the roster. They're going to want all of the roster. So now you've got to a point where TV deals are probably going to affect storylines. WWE, I think by this time next year, there might not be much of a brand extension left. I think WWE is going to want big talent available for SmackDown, you know, unless they do what they do now, where they don't really take the brand extension seriously, but it still does exist, where they can have guys appear on SmackDown for special occasions and shit like that. So maybe there's ways around it, but I'm not that optimistic with Fox or with SmackDown airing on Friday now. I almost don't see how it can work. You know, I just don't know. I don't know. A lot has to be answered. You know, WWE also just recently recombined the pay-per-views to make all of the pay-per-views joint promotions. They're all moving to 4 hours now, which a lot of fans have a lot of a problem with. And normally I would be right there with you and I would agree. The last thing I think we need is more hours of wrestling. However, the fact that the pay-per-views are now co-branded, adding that extra hour does give a chance for more talent to be featured, because now we've already seen a lot less talent has been featured on pay-per-view since the rosters are combined. So in this case, maybe a 4-hour pay-per-view isn't so bad, but we're seeing some pretty big changes to the wrestling business, specifically WWE, and I think the next year is going to be really interesting. Actually, the next couple of years should be really interesting as it relates to the future of WWE programming, whether it be pay-per-view, Raw, or SmackDown, or whatever. I just hope the WWE Network continues to be awesome. Hopefully WWE doesn't take their eye off the ball there, and they still continue to provide great content over there, and all the pay-per-views are available over there. And hopefully nothing happens to the network. But these TV deals are something else, man, I'll tell you. Did anybody see Enzo's rap song? Anybody get a chance to watch that? I actually watched it live on my stream on Monday night with all of you. After Raw went off the air, I hung out for about an hour, and you guys were like, pull up the song, and a bunch of you sent it to me on Twitter, so I pulled it up, we watched it together, and I have no words. I don't know what to make of it. Enzo was such a fucking weirdo. I couldn't understand anything he was saying in the song. I don't know if he's trying to be a rapper now or what's going on. I mean, you guys like this type of music more than me, or you know more about it, at least modern day rap and hip-hop, where I'm pretty much clueless. I loved rap music back in the day when I was young, but I can't make heads or tails out of anything modern. And watching Enzo do his thing, I kind of thought it was pretty bad. I think John Cena's a better rapper than Enzo, but I could be wrong there. What did you guys think? Was there anything good about that pile of garbage at all? I do wish Enzo the best if this is the road he's taking, if this is what he wants to do post-wrestling, then hell, I wish him all the luck in the world. I'm not going to shit on his passion. But I don't know. I kind of watched it and I laughed and I shrugged my shoulders and didn't really know what to make of it. But it was pretty cringy and it was pretty weird, and I don't know what it's going to mean for Enzo's future, if he's going to return to pro wrestling or if he's going to start rapping and making albums. I don't know. And honestly, don't really care. think he got a Raw deal with the girl, dragging his name through the mud and putting him through all that shit, but at the same time, he's kind of just got an annoying lifestyle, and, I'm kind of indifferent about Enzo, but if this is his dream, then no matter what your dream is, I wish you well. So good luck, Mr. Amore. And also, we have some CM Punk news to talk about as well. His trial has begun with WWE's doctor. It's Chris Amon, or is it Chris Amon or Chris Amon? I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but that is the guy that CM Punk talked so much shit about in the Colt Cabana podcast nearly 4 years ago now. I believe he did that on Thanksgiving of 2014. I did a video. I think it's my most watched video ever, is when I came up and reviewed his appearance on Colt Cabana's podcast and how much shit he talked about the WWE, specifically this doctor. And I thought this is something that would be settled before trial. I mean, CM Punk came off very angry in that podcast. He said some really fucked up things. He had a lot of legitimate gripes and complaints as well, but the way he came off was just very angry and very bitter, and he was just being really over the top with some of his insults. And I didn't think this was something that CM Punk would want brought up in court. Apparently, they're playing clips of the podcast where the jury can hear his profanity-laced tirades on this guy and stuff, and I don't know if it's really, in the end, going to make CM Punk look very good. But they're going through with it, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but most likely, Punk and Cabana both might have to wind up paying this doctor some money for all of the slander, and the last I had heard, CM Punk and Colt Cabana were not on good terms either. They had some sort of a falling out, which kind of sucks for Colt Cabana because he's not as rich as CM Punk. And if he has to pay this doctor for all the shit that CM Punk said, I don't know if Punk's even going to help him out. You would think Punk would be like, hey, if anything happens, I'll foot the bill here. I can afford it. But Colt Cabana might not be able to. So I don't know. I wish both guys well. I wish all three parties well in that. Hopefully everything just, gets dealt with and they can move on with their lives as best as possible. Whether or not Punk and Cabana have to pay this guy money or not, I don't know. I just hope nobody kills anyone is all I'm saying. And, of course, CM Punk has got a big fight coming up on June 9th. That's UFC, I forget the number. What is it? 225. I believe his opponent is a guy by the name of Mike Jackson. This is somebody much more in CM Punk's skill level. Last time he was completely overmatched by a very young and strong Mickey Gall. So this time around, he's fighting somebody that's 0-1 or 0-0. I don't know, but he doesn't have any more experience than CM Punk, and it might be a little bit more of a fair fight. I'm going to do a one-off episode on CM Punk's fight once it happens, and I'll come up here and review it. But I don't even know who to root for. I mean, part of me wants CM Punk back so badly in wrestling. I hope that he loses here, just because I think that will help him potentially return to wrestling, maybe even at All In. A lot of rumors and speculation that CM Punk will at least make an appearance, maybe not wrestle or anything, but he might actually make an appearance at the event, an autograph signing, a meet and greet or some shit, and he'll be there during the weekend because it is in Chicago. And if he is going to lose his UFC fight and potentially decides that, okay, I gave it my best shot, I'm going to move on with my life, professional wrestling would be the most logical place for him to return to. But if he wins, that just means he's going to want to fight again, and his UFC career is going to carry on another 2 years. By that point, CM Punk's going to be 42 years old or something like that, and, the window of opportunity for him to return to pro wrestling gets smaller by the day. So part of me, even though I'm rooting for him, I would like to see him beat this guy, Mike Jackson. If Mike Jackson makes CM Punk tap out in 20 seconds, that might not be so bad for the wrestling world. You know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think about CM Punk's potential win or loss at UFC on June 9th. Let's talk about Raw, reluctantly. Raw, of course, this past Monday was Memorial Day here in the United States. And, of course, that's a big holiday. And on top of that, they were also running head-to-head with Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. And it showed, because they got the second lowest rating in Raw history, apparently, this past week. The second lowest ever. And the show did not really have a whole lot going on. We got the token, holiday segment with the food fight with the B team. Every holiday they have to do some sort of a themed match or a themed brawl where, Christmas time they're sticking Christmas trees up each other's ass. At Thanksgiving they're shoving turkeys on the heads of tag teams, and here it is Memorial Day. They're doing a barbecue food fight in the middle of the ring. We had to deal with shit like that all night. I think the biggest story of Monday Night Raw was this segment between Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. So they, of course, have their match at Money in the Bank, a match that I've been complaining has been too nice. Ever since Nia issued the challenge to Ronda in New York, it was way too smiley for me. These girls were way too friendly, and I just was flabbergasted after Nia Jax challenged Ronda Rousey to a title match that the two ladies smile, put their arms around each other, and walk away together. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck am I watching here? Well, on Monday Night Raw, things have finally taken a turn. And that turn might be a heel turn. I don't know what we're going to classify what Nia Jax did on Monday Night Raw, but I don't know how you look at this thing as anything other than a heel turn. It's what it seemed like to me. Nia Jax came out there for a squash match. Ronda Rousey was on commentary for this match. Nia came out there. I forget the cute little jobber's name that she destroyed. She offered herself up to the jobber and said, put me in an armbar, which she does. She then lifts the girl up and just power bombs her right down and then grabs the mic, Jerry Lawler style. Remember when Jerry Lawler used to do commentary during his own matches? Gets on the mic, starts taunting Ronda Rousey at the announce table, and proceeds just to beat the piss out of this poor girl right in the middle of the ring while talking shit to her the whole time, making fun of her, taunting Ronda Rousey to her face, and acting like a bully. That's right, a bully. How about that? Alexa Bliss was validated. Every single word she said in her Moments of Bliss segments were totally true. The only thing that was missing was Nia Jax holding onto a turkey leg when she's beating this girl's ass. You've got Nia Jax doing the exact same thing that she was fighting against the pay-per-view prior to this. So I found that really funny. And again, maybe this is not a Nia Jax heel turn. Maybe this is a situation where WWE says there's no such thing as heels and faces anymore, and Nia Jax is just playing mind games with Ronda Rousey, and this is just a way to get under her skin and to throw her off. And she even calls Ronda to the ring after she's done beating the shit out of this girl. She calls Ronda Rousey down to the ring and laughs in her face, calls her cute, and acts like a complete bitch to her, and then leaves. And Ronda Rousey is standing in the ring with this kind of like heartbroken look on her face. So now you got to think that, Ronda Rousey, I don't like her being so tame. I want to see Ronda Rousey go apeshit. You think the Ronda Rousey that we always saw at UFC weigh-ins, do you think that Ronda Rousey would take Nia Jax's shit for even 1 second? Hell no. She'd break her arm off and beat her ass with it. So I was surprised that that Ronda just sat there and didn't do anything, and I was even more surprised that Nia Jax acted like such a fucking twat during this segment. So I don't know if she's heel or what, and I'm not complaining. I know my tone might sound like I'm bitching about this. Hey, I'm not. I know it doesn't make sense that Nia Jax is now a heel, or kind of cut a heel promo that makes her look like a hypocrite after what she just went through with Alexa Bliss, but I still think that this is better for the feud. Turning Nia heel, I think, is a good idea for WWE. You got a shit ton of baby faces right now anyway. You got Ronda Rousey, you've got Ember Moon, and you still have Sasha and Bayley. You don't need Nia Jax as a babyface. Turning her heel is probably better, and I hope that she remains a heel. And I also hope that at some point Sasha Banks or Bayley turns heel as well. That'll give you another one. And the big baby faces on the Raw roster can be Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon. So I think with the whole segment on Raw, this has now made the match a little bit more exciting, or interesting, I should say, at Money in the Bank. And it might even be a ploy. The fans love to accuse the WWE of doing things just to get somebody over or whatever. And one of my big fears with this Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax match when it was first announced for Money in the Bank is that I didn't want the Chicago crowd to shit on Ronda Rousey, because she is new. And when the match was announced, it was very controversial because some fans thought she didn't deserve it and doesn't make any sense and all that fucking nonsense. So if you get a rabid audience like Chicago, they might feel the same way and shit on Ronda Rousey during the match. So if you make Nia Jax just an unsufferable cunt, then maybe going into Money in the Bank, the fans are actually going to want to see Ronda beat her ass. So maybe that's the plan here. I don't know. But to me, that was probably the biggest story to come out of Monday Night Raw. We had an Intercontinental title match as well that had some interesting news in there. There was an Elias segment before the match where, of course, he's in the ring with his guitar, prepared to sing, does his whole shtick just like every week, but the fans are giving him so much shit that he says he's not going to leave the ring until they show him respect. But the Intercontinental title match was up next. So Elias is sitting in the ring the whole time, and Seth Rollins comes out for his match, because he's taking on Jinder Mahal. And he runs off Elias, and I said right there, I was saying it on the live stream, I said, there you go. That's going to be your beginning. Elias is going to reappear. The fact that he's walking away, not doing anything, guarantees you that he's going to show up in this match, and I'll bet you it's going to lead to a program between Elias and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title. The match ends in a disqualification when Jinder Mahal actually wins in a really stupid finish. The Singh brother, whichever one's not hurt, the one that's out there with Jinder Mahal every week, he jumps in the ring and starts interfering right in front of the referee's face. Eventually, Seth goes and grabs a chair, nails Jinder with it, and then the referee rings the bell and disqualifies Seth Rollins. The finish made absolutely no sense whatsoever, but what was great about it, or there was a couple things that was great about it. Number one, Jinder Mahal did not win the Intercontinental title. Thank fucking God. And number two, like I said earlier, we knew we were going to see Elias again. So as Seth Rollins is leaving the ring, kind of celebrating, he stands on the announce table with the belt and he's bashed from behind by Elias with the guitar. So that sets up now an Intercontinental title program, you would assume, here in the future. And neither one of these guys, according to my notes, are booked for Money in the Bank unless they add some match here in the next couple of weeks, because we don't have an IC or a US title match as of right now. So that could happen here in the future. Elias might actually get a title match at Money in the Bank. The rest of Raw was a whole lot of shit. The Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley segment was no better than the week before. Sami Zayn attempted to apologize, and then Lashley came down and gave him a really stern handshake, and they did announce that Sami Zayn would be taking on Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank. No real big surprise there, and this is a feud that I don't think anybody gives a shit about at all. And in the main event, we had the women closing out the show this week on Monday Night Raw, and it was the gauntlet match with 7 ladies. I believe it was Sasha Banks, Mickie James, Bayley, the entire Riot Squad, and somebody else. Dana Brooke, I think it was. And Sasha got the victory there. That did surprise me. I thought it would go to Ruby Riott. I thought Sasha and Bayley would cancel each other out. I thought Dana Brooke, there was no way she was going to win. There was no way Mickie James was going to win either. Although, can I just pause? And can we all just have a moment of silence for how absolutely crazy, drop-dead, gorgeous, hot Mickie James looked on Monday Night Raw in front of her hometown in Richmond in that Wonder Woman outfit? Holy shit. I would like to invite Mickie James over for some MILF cookies. You are welcome anytime, dear. And I wish you would have won, but she didn't. Sasha Banks got the victory there. And like I said, I was surprised. I thought with Mickie James not being a very likely winner, or Dana Brooke and Sasha and Bayley having their issue and the entire Riot Squad in the match, I thought the best person of the squad to win would be the leader, and it would also give you another heel in the match. It's a very babyface heavy match for the women at Money in the Bank, and Ruby was the one I expected, but she didn't win. No big deal. Ruby's like 15 years old. She's got her whole career ahead of her, so if anybody's flipping out that she didn't win, just untangle your panties and relax. Not that big a deal. As much as I was rooting for her, I'm not losing my shit that she didn't win. What the fuck do I care at the end of the day? What about SmackDown? We had a match, a tune-up match for for Shinsuke Nakamura. He defeated Ty Dillinger. Nakamura beat him with his finisher and then hit a second one on Ty and then counted him down all the way up to 10 to basically let AJ Styles know that that's all it's going to take at Money in the Bank. And I'll get into some ideas on that match here in a minute. We had a really great match. Probably the best match of the night goes to the New Day, beating The Miz and The Bar in a very good match. And Big E got the victory there. He got the pin on The Miz, hitting the big ending or whatever his finisher is called. And I'm really hoping Big E is the member of the New Day that's in the Money in the Bank. And that's going to be a beefy Money in the Bank, man. I mean, we got some big guys in there. So I'm assuming that Big E will be the guy, but I suppose they could add Xavier or Kofi, but if it was up to me, Big E has got to get that spot hands down. And then in the main event, the match that was advertised last week, Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan, was changed to a triple threat. They did a spot earlier on in the night, or a promo with Samoa Joe, where he's on the mic talking shit, and Daniel Bryan, and then Cass comes out there with the crutch, and we were speculating as to whether or not his injury was a work or not, or if it was a shoot, and it turns out to be a complete work, and he said that he will get revenge on Daniel Bryan as soon as he's cleared, and guess what? He's cleared right now, takes the crutch, nails Samoa Joe, they all start brawling, and Cass, who was supposed to get a qualifying match the week before against Samoa Joe, is now inserted into the main event. and we had the triple threat instead. And Samoa Joe, as predicted, did get the victory here. He's kind of who I expected to win this because Daniel Bryan and Big Cass have their issue going on, and I thought Joe would make the most likely sense here because if he didn't win, what the fuck does Joe do? So Joe got the victory there when Daniel Bryan had hit the running knee on Big Cass and he's about to score the pin, but Joe just picks Daniel Bryan right up off of Big Cass, puts him in the coquina clutch, and Daniel Bryan passes out. And now that Samoa Joe has officially gotten himself into the match, he is now kind of, he's kind of my leading candidate to win right now. I think Samoa Joe would be a great briefcase holder. I think it's always better on heels. So with that being said, why don't we just kind of blow through the Money in the Bank card here, and we'll take a look at what we got going on, and we'll talk about these matches. We've got Roman Reigns taking on Jinder Mahal. The reason I mentioned this one first is because with all of the talk about this match potentially being the main event, some fans are literally freaking out that WWE might actually make Roman and Jinder the main event. I think they're going to make it the first match. I do. I think it's going to be the curtain jerker. I think it's the first match we're going to see. I think an audience like that in Chicago, if WWE really wants to get that full, loud Roman Reigns hate, if they want those fans to go nuts, what better way than to open up a pay-per-view in Chicago with Roman Reigns and the Believe That and the dead end, the whole song, and just listen to that crowd explode with boos. I think that would be great. And then you can have Jinder Mahal come out and the fans will just have a good time shitting on it. If this match happens later on in the card, or if it's semi-main event, after we've seen a lot of great matches, the fans are going to be brutal on this match. I think there'll be more fun in the beginning of the pay-per-view where they're very loud and very vocal and very jacked up. So all the fans that think this is going to be the main event, I'm going in the opposite direction, and I say WWE opens with this. And how crazy would it be if they ran some angle with Roman Reigns maybe defeating Jinder Mahal in the opening match, and then maybe in the main event, he finds a way to wiggle his way into the Money in the Bank match and actually wins the briefcase. That's right. If you've just passed out or had a stroke because of what I just said, I'm sorry to have to do that to you, but I just had to throw out that scenario. It would be fucking crazy. I don't see it happening, but how crazy would that be? And considering all the things we've seen WWE do with Roman Reigns in Royal Rumbles, I think that would be a really funny way to troll the audience. But, like I've said in recent commentaries about Roman Reigns, say what you want about him, he's not really a factor right now. I think it's really silly for fans to complain about Roman Reigns, whether it's on YouTube or social media or to their friends or whatever. Just don't worry about him. He's not a factor right now. He'll be again. I'm sure he's going to have title shots until the end of time and he'll be champion one day. But the fact that WWE didn't put the belt on him at WrestleMania and then the Greatest Royal Rumble, and now he's working with Jinder Mahal, a guy that's been shoved so far down the card, it's ridiculous, and it could potentially be an opening match, and it's one of the lower matches on the card. I think we should suspend all the Roman Reigns bitching for right now. He's in a shitty feud that nobody cares about with Jinder Mahal, and to us, that should be a good thing, right? That's positive. At least he's not in the world title picture, and I really don't care much about this match, but where it falls on the card is going to be kind of interesting, and I think it should go on first. That would be my pick there. Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley. I just talked about that. That was announced. And we also have a tag team match between the Bludgeon Brothers and Gallows and Anderson for the SmackDown tag team titles. Carmella is taking on Asuka for the SmackDown women's title, and Nia Jax is taking on Ronda Rousey for the Raw women's title. So with these two matches, I've said all along that I think one belt is going to change hands and the other belt is going to be retained. And it just is a matter of which belt is going to change hands. Is Asuka going to get it done? And is Nia Jax going to find a way as a heel to retain the title with some interference or involvement from Stephanie McMahon? Because Stephanie just didn't reappear for no reason. She's going to have a hand in this. She's got to have some revenge planned and in mind for Ronda Rousey after what happened to Stephanie at WrestleMania and the next night on Raw. There's no way Stephanie is there just to be all happy-go-lucky. She's got a trick up her sleeve, and I think it could be Nia Jax, and I also think it could be Natalya. I think Natalya is set for a heel turn, and I think she's going to work with Ronda Rousey in the future. I think it's a done deal, and possibly, if they do put the belt on Ronda, Natalya could be the girl holding that briefcase too. So there's all sorts of different possibilities there. And as far as that women's Money in the Bank match goes, when I look at the participants, you got Lana in there. As crazy as it sounds, I think Lana could be a fun winner. And a lot of fans are automatically going to say, oh, that's stupid. She has no business holding the briefcase. She's not over. She's never won any matches. She sucks in the ring. All this different shit that people like to say. They're acting as if the briefcase is a title belt. The briefcase is not a championship. I think the point of the briefcase should be to give talent that would otherwise not get a title shot a chance at the title. What's the point of Charlotte winning the briefcase? That's stupid. What's the point of Ember Moon winning the briefcase? That's stupid. Those girls are going to get title shots on their own without a briefcase. Ember Moon, all she's got to do is win a number one contenders match on Raw sometime in July, and she'll be challenging for the women's title at SummerSlam. Guaranteed. She doesn't need a briefcase. Charlotte, same thing. If Asuka winds up winning the belt, Charlotte will become the number one contender on SmackDown, and we will get Charlotte and Asuka 2 at SummerSlam. And then you can have the wild card briefcase holder in there to potentially fuck things up. And if any babyface is going to win the briefcase, the only one I think that would make any sense at all would be Becky Lynch. Because Becky Lynch has kind of been out of the loop. She's still very over. Fans love her, and I am in love with Becky Lynch. I think she's absolutely gorgeous, good wrestler to boot, and she was one of the original women that kind of started the women's revolution. She was the first ever SmackDown Ladies Champion, and she hasn't really done anything since. So if you are going to put the briefcase with a babyface, I think Becky is a much better choice than Naomi or Ember Moon or Charlotte, and maybe even Sasha Banks. Sasha might be a little fun with the briefcase, I will admit that, but if it was up to me right now, my top 3 picks are Lana, Natalya, and Becky. And I also think with the briefcases, just like the 2 women's title matches, I think one belt is going to be retained, one belt's going to change hands. With the briefcases, I think one briefcase will be on Raw and one briefcase will be on SmackDown. So if a Raw guy wins the briefcase, that means it's probably going to be Becky or Lana winning the briefcase in the women's match. If a SmackDown guy wins the briefcase, then I see the women's match going to somebody like Natalya to potentially challenge or fuck over or turn heel on Ronda Rousey if Ronda Rousey becomes champion at Money in the Bank. So there are so many different options here and so many different scenarios to look at. And when you look at the men's match, like I said, we've got Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, The Miz, Rusev, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, and hopefully Big E. When you look at that group, top of my list right off the bat was The Miz. I thought he would be really fun to have the briefcase, especially if in the future Daniel Bryan winds up winning the title. He's the perfect guy for Miz to cash in on, given their history. So Miz was right at the top of my list. I think Finn Balor would be very fun too, because he could have the briefcase and hold it for a while, and then maybe turn heel sometime in the future. And a lot of fans think that a Raw guy is automatically disqualified because Brock Lesnar is the Universal Champion, and what's the point of having a Raw guy hold a briefcase if Brock's sitting at home? True, but you have a year. I don't think Brock Lesnar is going to be champion 1 year from now. I think Brock Lesnar will hopefully lose the belt at SummerSlam. I mean, we thought he was going to lose it at Mania. So if he does wind up losing it at SummerSlam, that gives the briefcase holder plenty of time to cash in. Finn Balor can hold the briefcase until Survivor Series. Maybe he can cash in the briefcase on somebody, some babyface, and turn heel. Or maybe reunite the Bullet Club. Maybe he jumps with the briefcase over to SmackDown. Are you allowed to switch brands? We talked about this on Monday night. I don't even think I got a definitive answer. If you have the briefcase, can you switch brands and cash in? If you can, that's going to make pay-per-views really fun, because now a briefcase holder can show up virtually during any title match, regardless of what brand it is. So making that stipulation, I think, could be a lot of fun. So Brock Lesnar being the Universal Champion, I don't think really stops a Raw guy from winning it. WWE probably wants to have a briefcase on Raw. They haven't had a briefcase on the men's side of things on Raw in a couple of years, right? So it might be time for that to be featured again on Monday Night Raw, and I would like to see the briefcase holder hold it a little bit longer this time. Baron Corbin didn't hold it very long. I forgot who had it before him. And then it might have been, I think it was Dean Ambrose who cashed it in the same night, and then Baron Corbin coughed it up pretty quickly. So I think the next guy, the next male to hold the briefcase should hold it for a long time. Cash it in at Survivor Series, cash in it at Royal Rumble, or cash in at WrestleMania. So I think you should hold off the cash in for a long time on the men's side of things if I'm booking this shit. So I don't think Brock Lesnar being champion really means anything. I think a Raw guy can still win the briefcase. So if it is going to be a Raw guy, it doesn't need to be Strowman. Just like Charlotte, Strowman can get a title match on his own. I think Finn Balor would make a much better option there. So would Kevin Owens. He's a former Universal Champion and he's trying to find his way back to the title picture. That might be one good way to do it. And on the SmackDown side of things, aside from The Miz, the guy that won on Tuesday night, Samoa Joe, I think would be a great option because he's lost some matches clean. If he winds up losing to Roman Reigns like he did at Backlash, but winds up being world champion a couple of months later, then that loss to Roman kind of fades away and doesn't mean anything. So I think Samoa Joe would be great because he's the type of heel, even though he's a badass and a tough guy, he's not above taking the easy road. He's not above taking a cheap shot, taking advantage of a situation. And he's such a great heel and he's such an asshole bully. I think it would be great to see him come out there and maybe cash in on a destroyed babyface after he just has a grueling match. And think about this. We've got the WWE title match, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Last man standing match. Now, fans, because they're so entitled and such know-it-alls, they're going to automatically demand that the only thing that makes sense here is for this match to be the main event. AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura should absolutely be the main event. Otherwise, WWE is disgracing the WWE title. Wrong. Not necessarily at all. At least not on this pay-per-view. I think they should have main evented Backlash. I thought they should have main evented a couple of shows. But as far as Money in the Bank goes, I don't know if you have the WWE title match in the main event. Because if you do, think about this. If you have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura in the main event and a SmackDown guy wins the briefcase, what would be stopping that briefcase holder to come out there and cash in on the winner of the last man standing match? Because these guys are going to be completely wrecked and completely spent. And it might even be like, those last man standing finishes where both guys are down for the count of 10 or the count of 9 and one guy stands up at the last second. It might be a deal like that, to where the winner is standing up, but then he immediately collapses back down, which means the briefcase holder just has to walk out there, lay down on the guy, and pin him 1, 2, 3. So in order to avoid that, you can do one of two things. You can either have the men's match be the main event. That way it doesn't give the briefcase holder the opportunity to cash in because the title match has already happened and now he's the briefcase holder and the pay-per-view's over. Or you maybe run an angle where the winner of the briefcase is injured and is sent off to the hospital even though he won. Maybe he gets hurt or something like that and he's unable to cash in the briefcase. Or if you're not allowed to switch brands, you can just have a Raw guy win the briefcase and he has to cash in on a Raw champion, which means it's not a factor in the AJ Nakamura match anyway. So you got to take all of that into consideration here. You got to think about what kind of finish they're going to do, where they're headed in the future, going into Extreme Rules, going into the next several weeks on TV, and heading into SummerSlam. And I think the fans have a really difficult time doing that. And the easy answer is that AJ and Shinsuke should main event this pay-per-view, and if not, WWE's a bunch of idiots, when if you look at the big picture, you'll see that maybe that's not necessarily the case. It just kind of depends. So I'm curious where these matches lie. I said that Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal might open the show. We might also see the women's or men's match open the show. They might want to spread out the two Money in the Banks really far apart on the pay-per-view. So we could see the women open up the show and then the men close the show. I don't think we're going to get both Money in the Bank matches back to back. I think that would be too much. But if it was up to me, I still would prefer to see AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura main event this show, and I would love to see Shinsuke Nakamura win the title. I don't think Shinsuke should win the belt and then somebody should cash in on him. That should only happen to AJ. I think the only way a briefcase holder cashes in the same night is if they're beating AJ Styles, not Shinsuke Nakamura. He should have his run with the belt and move on to SummerSlam now, and you hold off a briefcase cash in as long as you can. So those are some of my ideas for Money in the Bank. Let me know what you think. And here we are about an hour into the podcast here. I might shorten it up a little bit. And I had a much better time this week discussing this stuff than I have in recent weeks, combing through and discussing every little single match in detail on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Kind of a new rule for this commentary and my YouTube channel. If the show sucks, I'm not spending much time about it because I feel like it's a waste of time. That's kind of my motivation here for changing things up. So thanks for hanging out with me this week for episode 501. I will keep you guys posted on social media and other places on when my changes to the channel will be officially taking place. So please follow me on Twitter and like the Facebook page and all that stuff so you can be informed on everything. So you guys take care. Have a great rest of your week. I should be up here this Monday as usual doing my live Raw watch along, and we'll talk about all the shit going on right now in the current product. So you guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you in just a few days. Until then, peace.
This has been a Good Mic Work Commentaries production. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/GoodMicWork. Follow Greg Morgan on Twitter at GoodMicWork and visit GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com for all the latest podcast and video content.